The first instrument I learned was like when I was like 6 years old, and I started cello at primary school, and I sort of stuck with that for about 2 or 3 years, which I did really enjoy. So like, I did a few grades on that. But then I sort of decided I want to move on to guitar, so I did like classical guitar from like 8 years old to about 14 years old. So I did some grades on that. But then I got really bored of that. All the songs I had to learn were just like really lame songs. So then I moved on to bass. They all sort of overlapped each other, but I moved on to bass guitar when I was like 12 years old. And I did like up to like grade six on that, and I stuck with that, and I played that in a couple of bands. But then that also overlapped into like electric guitar, so I did that in bands too. And I still play that a bit. Like I do use like electric guitar in my tracks sometimes. But I guess like when I was about actually I just did keyboard and drums for a bit. So I played a lot of instruments. But when I was about 16, I've always sort of like been like quite interested in recording music. Like when I was about 12, my parents bought me like a little Tascam 4-track tape recorder, which I just used to spend like all day on. Like I was obsessed with it, and like I love the fact you could put it in reverse. Like I really like doing like weird reverse sounds. So I used to do a lot with that, but it was really cool being like limited to 4 tracks. Like you had to really choose what you wanted to do. But when I was about 13 or something, my mum brought home a copy of Dance CJ software. I don't know if you know it, but that's the one where like you've got all like these like trance loops and stuff, and you like rearrange them on the tracks, and you've got like the mixer and effects, and like I absolutely loved it. Like I'd come home from school at 3 o'clock, and I'd just be on that till about 8 o'clock. Like that was one thing. Then I had like one computer in the house, so everyone used to like to kick me off the computer, and I was just like so stubborn about it. Like I used to spend all day on it. But like I sort of started to realize that was quite limited because you could record your own stuff into it, but I had absolutely no idea how. So when I was about 16, my mum like she changed from like a PC to a Mac with her work computer, and I was just like playing around on it, and then I discovered GarageBand, and like I loved GarageBand. Like I thought it was so like easy to learn. You could do so much of it. Like the Grimes album, like it was all made on GarageBand. Like you can do so much of it. So I stuck with that for 2 years, and I made quite a lot of tracks on that. And we used it in the bands that I was with. And then I just thought, like I wanted something a bit more professional, so I just got onto Logic, because it's basically the same thing, just a lot more advanced. So I've been using Logic since I was about 17, and then just like stuck with it there, like learned more about it. But I think, playing like I've lost a lot of my kind of like musical knowledge. Like if you asked me to read some music now, I wouldn't be able to do it. But I think the fact that I did do it when I was younger makes a big difference to like how I go about making music now. I produce on Logic Pro 9, and that's what I've been using for a few years. I did try using Ableton a bit, but it was when I was in a band we used to use Ableton because I used to use like a live setup with Ableton, but I can't really work it in the same way as Logic. But like I use a lot of the Logic synths, like they're mainly what I go for, like all the ones that come with it. Like, I use those for most of my stuff, and then really like sort of like native instrument stuff. So I've got Machine for doing my drums with, and like FMA I use a lot. And for the past year I've really got into using Reactor because I think it's like so good the way you can just like you've got like all the user libraries, so you download all these synths and like drum machines that people have made, and you can get the sort of like sounds you never would have thought you could get with like a normal sort of software synth. I think it's like a really good sort of like step up for someone to use. And then the only other one I really use is Arturia CS80, which is like an emulation of this huge old Yamaha CS80 synth, which looks amazing, but they cost something like 20 grand or something. They're so rare, but it's got really good like sound for like synth pads and stuff like that. I use that a lot. And then I've also got a microKORG, which I've had since I was about 16 years old. Like, so I can't really use it much these days. It's quite sort of basic sound, but I use that for bits. Then I was using this little analog synth called Dope for Dark Energy, which I was borrowing off someone, which was really good. You could get like properly like analog-y bass sounds. And then I've got a few old like Casio synths that like I've had for a few years, which give like the really sort of basic like Casio sounds, like the really kind of like childy ones, but you can use it like very occasionally they fit. And one of them's circuit bent by these people called SCAT, which do like really good like circuit bent stuff in the UK. And like when I was about 17 years old, I was obsessed with circuit bent. Didn't even know like I tried it twice myself, and I bought like these old keyboards, like get in there with the wires, and then I just blew the fuses on both the keyboards. So like I just wasted like £50 just on these keyboards. But when I was about 17, I got all my money together so I could buy this circuit, but it's like ready built circuit bent one, and the sounds like it just sounds like someone screaming. Like I've never used them once. Like I don't know where I thought it was going to fit in with my music, but yeah, so stuff like that. And then like, I've got a couple of microphones, so I like sort of sampling my own stuff. Sometimes use guitars, and then yeah, just everything on a MacBook Pro, and I just got these new Mackie MR8 monitors, which are really nice. So that's pretty much it. I don't know, like I've got a really nice big. I mean, it's only 49 key. I'd rather have like an 88 key, but my 49 keyboard, it's got really nice keys. They're like semi-weighted and stuff, and like I find it really hard to use other keyboards. Like if I had a 25 key keyboard, I wouldn't be able to use it because like I just do a lot of kind of like two hands kind of stuff. But I think it's possibly microphones because I really like using recorded stuff, and I think like the MIDI keyboard thing, it doesn't make any difference on my sound. It's just the way I make it. But with microphones, if I didn't have microphones, then there would be a lot of stuff in my tracks that wouldn't exist because it was recorded. So I think that's probably it. But like I've got a couple of decent microphones, but a lot of the stuff is just recorded on my phone, just like iPhone microphone. So it's nothing advanced, but I think that makes a really big difference to my tracks. Um, I think like what I'm doing at the moment is sort of like changing my sound quite a little bit, and the last thing I released was the Catacombs EP, and that like that was quite kind of like it had a lot of kind of like straight 4/4 kind of rhythms and stuff. So when that came out, I would be a bit more obliged to say it was more like house music. But the stuff I'm doing at the moment, like it's definitely not house and it's definitely not garage and it's definitely not dubstep. And so I think like if someone said like genre wise, I'd have to just say electronic music. Um, but it draws in influences from old house garage and dubstep. Like they all come into it. But it's I guess like one of the main things that people judge a genre of music off is actually like the drums. Like if it's house, it's straight 4/4. It's garage, it's shuffly. If it's dubstep, it's like half time and stuff. And they're the things that change in my music. The kind of like the chord progressions and the sounds are the things that stay constant. Like throughout like which releases. But it's the drums that change. So it's definitely just electronic music, but it draws influences from everyone. I think the one that will always be that sort of album for me is Heligoland by Massive Attack. Like it's like that's my like ultimate album. Like 10 out of 10. And I think like sort of like sound selection and stuff with the vocalists is like if I hear it and as soon as I just start hearing one track, I have to stop it because I want to go straight and start making some music. Like I try and go through it and I can't because I have to go straight and start up a new song. But yeah, it's sort of like Massive Attack, like Nicholas Jar, who I'm a massive fan of. That sort of stuff's like the kind of thing that really like drives me to make music. Well, my next release is with a label called Get Me. So that's going to be like a digital and vinyl release, which I'm really excited about because that'll be my first thing on record. And that's a collaboration between me and this vocalist called Joshua Idahan, who does kind of like spoken word stuff. And then there's also like a remix from Dan Mantle. So that's going to be out sometime in the next 1 or 2 months. We haven't got a date yet. Well, yeah, I'm on the bill for Dimensions this year, which I'm really excited about because I've always wanted to go, but could never afford it. And that's with Detached, who kind of like stem from Hit and Run. So we're going to be doing like Boat Party and the Stage Party, so I'm like really looking forward to doing that. And I'm hoping there should be a few more festival dates sort of coming up this year, but I can't really confirm any of them yet. But yeah, I think I would like to go just to some festivals, kind of just as a, someone to go to. But we went to Beacons last year, me and all my mates, which was up in Yorkshire, and that was like absolutely amazing. Like it was like £50 a ticket, and we got to see so much good music. So hoping to do that again. But I think, you know, because I'm on a sort of like gap year, sort of like summer doesn't seem as much of a kind of opportunity, because like the whole year sort of felt like that. So I think I've got to really decide like what I want to do with it. But yeah, hopefully should be playing a few festivals this year.
Bravery ain't easy, else everyone will do it. Check it. Choices are few and what needs doing needs doing. And these are the moments to make us. They wake us, far from ready. Bitch face with no makeup. Stand and get rated. Act and get hated. Or turn tail like a rodent.